Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Sam Zagar. We're hopping into another YouTube reading. Let's get the chart on the screen. You can see that we're reading for a 1-3 emotional manifesting generator. In their intake form, they say they're having a hard time knowing which thoughts or beliefs are theirs, which ones they should listen to. So we've got a little bit of conditioning questioning going on. When I ask what is their actual biggest question, they want to know how to combine their sacral response and tribal emotional wave. There's a bit of confusion between the two, which makes a ton of sense to me because they're not even connected together. When I ask what else are they curious about, they say, is there any type of spiritual work that they would be gifted at that stands out in their chart? That's a really interesting question. Any type of spiritual work that they're gifted in. Oh, my brain is already trying to find so many terms. Okay. Anything else you need me to know? They've dropped out of university for the second/third time. I'm curious about the slash. What do you mean second/third time? Would LOL. Yeah, I would laugh out loud at this too. 1-3 profile. They have a bachelor in psychology this time, and they have a degree in accounting, which they've previously completed. Oh, because I don't do a very good job of reading the intake form sometimes because the way that people write and the way that I read out loud plus processing at the same time, I dropped out of uni for the third time this morning because this academic system isn't working for me and I want to do spiritual work. I really resonate with numerology and human design. I'm extremely lit up by human design and everything birthday based in numerology. They like numbers. Okay, so they said they want to work in spirituality, but they like the numbers, they like human design, they particularly like numerology. I'm curious to know what is it about patterns that speaks to this person. And immediately I can see that the channel of prodigal is in collective circuitry. There's always going to be an interest in patterns when we have collective circuitry, but it's more about the logical collective side than it is the abstract collective side. And prodigal is abstract. When it comes to logical collective, I only have hanging gates. I've got a hanging gate 4, I've got a hanging gate 7, and other than that, there's not a lot going on. We did already acknowledge that the head and ajna were going to be the more problematic conditioning places for them. However, that's only the problematic center conditioning. This is a triple split design. So we have problematic conditioning in potentially all of the bridges. When I have a triple split, one of the things that I really want to emphasize as important is that the bridges change. You get variety. You're not taking the same pathway all the time. So, for example, this person is 26 years old. I don't know who they live with. I'm going to create an imaginary scenario where they live with two roommates and they go out of the house to one gym that they really like, and they also go out of the house to a coffee shop that they really like and a grocery store that they really like, and occasionally they go and they visit with their parents, and so the roommates possibly provide bridges. The gym creates really fast random neutral bridges. The coffee shop might provide more like consistent flow of bridging with some regular bridges and a lot of interchanging bridges. Now, when I'm saying like interchanging bridges, I'm talking about the other people providing the connection point, right? So gate 26 is a bridge for this person. So where can they get a gate 26? Is it from a roommate? Is it from somebody walking by? And so then I want to think about how they're processing things. Ultimately, if this person is in the same place with the same people all the time, they're going to end up thinking a lot of the same way and feeling a lot of the same way. That's also a little bit of a warning for this person in romantic relationships because who you're a big conditioning force. Okay, let me say that whoever you end up in a romantic relationship with has to deal with a ton of conditioning that comes from you. So it's not like you're being victimized. Like we all condition each other, right? But if you're in a relationship with someone who bridges your splits as a triple split, when you get out of that relationship or when you separate from that partner, and I don't even mean break up, I might mean like you leave the house for a day and you go out for a girls' night or whatever. But when you have that much consistency with one bridge or one person who does multiple bridges, you end up over identifying with the conditioned version of your chart rather than the actual version of your chart. And so, because one of your first questions was about which beliefs are mine and which beliefs aren't, you have a like predisposed conditioning, or you're easier to condition anywhere where you have bridges. But there are so many potential ways to bridge you, right? Like, at least it's not just the same two small bridges getting hit over and over and over again. I could give you gate 35. That's a nice one. I could give you gate 52, gate 60, gate 54, gate 38, gate 26. Other than that, I'd have to give you a lot of channels, full channels. Like, I would love to just chuck in the channel of community and see how that one goes. And I would actually really like to see what happens when you get the channel of community, because we have the entire channel of synthesis. Then I would put in channel of community. And then you're going to go up into the money line, which means you would have a lot of tribal circuitry. You would have a consistent tribal stream. And while the money line is not a part of the, oh man, I'm going to get technical here. Channel of surrender and channel of community are the top two parts of a stream that starts from the root center in the tribal circuitry. Now, the money line is kind of like, it's like you've got these two streams that do this, and then the money line's almost like this little hat on top, right? Like, it's not actually part of the stream, but once you put that hat or that crown, there you there you go. Once you put that crown on top, gate 45, you add an extra level of dominance. I have to be careful with this word because everyone has different associations with the words, and it's not oppression. It could be, everything's a duality, but it's technically leadership, but leadership that has dominion over a type of territory. That's what I mean by dominance. And so this is why we call them the king or the queen or the CEO. And it's still an aspect of a certain tribal business. 54 to 32 to 44 to 26, transformation and surrender, they create this stream of business. You have 32 and 44 in the stream of business, but you also have this 2145. So when I look at the type of work or business you can do, I see that you don't have the complete stream. So you're drawn to, like, you're quite drawn to gate 54 and gate 26 when it comes to your finances, when it comes to your success, your survival, your money. You're drawn to the channel of community on the other side when it has more to do with relational control, like, who are you in relationship with, as opposed to who are you in business with. And I understand that business is a type of relationship, but it's not intimate the way that the other one is. There's an intimacy. Okay. Sometimes, like, 12 times a reading, I'm like, Sam, you've just gone in a whole nother. But then I recognize that it is still part of the intake form. We're talking about conditioning. We're talking about the emotionality. We're talking about, let's talk about the difference between your sacral and your solar plexus. Now, there are a lot of differences between them, but when it comes to making a decision, how are you supposed to make a decision? You say that you don't really know what it feels like. Let me talk about what some of this should feel like. It's not always going to be this kind of sequence where it's like you always respond and then you wait for clarity. But you know what? There's a really good chance that's how it's going to go the majority of the time, because the sacral has the ability to respond in the now, in the moment, but it might not necessarily be the moment to actually do something. Like, if I go to an emotional sacral being and I say, hey, do you want to go out for lunch this weekend? It's not this weekend yet. So your first response might be like, I like lunch, or I want to hang out with you, or oh, an adventure. Or maybe your first response is like, go somewhere with you. Ooh, I don't really like you that much. Like, you might have a first response, but it's not necessarily time to execute that decision yet. You've got more time. So there's a good chance you're like, huh, let me think about that. No matter how you actually respond on the inside, like, yeah, or, it's not about like keeping that private, because let the things come out that are supposed to come out. Have your responses you're supposed to have. Just don't commit to things yet. Don't actually sign yourself up for things yet. Always give yourself a second, a minute, a night, a week, a fortnight, like who knows how long you need. There's a good chance you don't need to wait a lunar cycle. That's a reflector's long-term authority. But there's a really good chance you need to wait long enough to shift your mood because a lot of how you respond is based on the energy that you have available. Most of your response is based on the energy available to commit to something. Now, you might actually have a yes for something, but in the beginning, it presents as like, no, because you might already be processing something. You might be in like deep in the middle of slogging through processing, integrating something, and whatever energy you're making right now, you need for the processing that you're going through, especially if you are moving through a larger, more complex emotion like grief. It's very important that whatever your immediate reaction is, you don't see that as all of the information that you are looking for. You are looking for yourself to come to a relaxed state or a somewhat calm state, or not a manic, not a depressed, not an erratic kind of state. It's interesting because there is marketing for sacral beings, generators, and manifesting generators that says if it's not a heck yeah, it's a F no. But that implies that every sacral based decision, in order for it to be correct, it has to have this like, yeah. And like, I always laugh when I try and imitate a sacral because I don't know what that, whatever. But there's supposed to be this like, I want it. Yeah. Like, heck yeah. Let me at it. Like, and sometimes it's going to feel like that. But there's a way better chance that that type of language works a lot better for the pure sacral being, where the sacral is the authority. For you, for this being, this is an emotional being. Whatever your yeah is could also be an emotional high. And when you come off of that emotional high, you're going, yeah, no, actually, I'm not really in the mood for that. I'm not in the mood for that anymore. Things have moved on. I'm in a different place now. So part of the struggle with you is, how do you feel about something when it's presented to you? When you get asked the first time, what's the first response? What's the first feeling? Where's the mood currently at? Like, ask yourself some of those questions. Someone comes up to you and they say, hey, do you want to start this course in 4 months? And you go, oh, I do want to learn new things. I don't have the money to sign up for that right now. And I do have a couple of projects on my plate that I need to finish. Okay, so I would ask you, like, what was your first response? Yes, I'm excited about going in a direction. I'm excited about having something to do. When I look at the cost, I don't know if that's something I'm going to be able to manage right now. That might put too much pressure on me to work too hard in order to pay for this thing. However, I recognize that it's a little ways away and money could come in from somewhere. And I don't feel like it's going to, I'm not suffering without it. And I didn't put all of my happiness on it. Like, okay, well, I would also come back in a week and I would ask you again, hey, that course is coming up in 3 months and 3 weeks. How do you feel about it now? And you might be like, not as good as when I was asked the first time. I actually don't find it that exciting. Actually, I found out that this other place over here is offering a similar course and it's $500 cheaper. Okay. So maybe we're going to lean in that direction. It's like, I did recently teach a class on this about what are the signs that something is a no from your authority. I can talk quite a bit about what the signs are that something is a yes for you, or what are the signs that something is a no for you. But in general, I would hesitate to move forward on something if I felt really jittery about it. If I felt like I just couldn't settle my body in some way, I wouldn't commit to it yet. If when I thought about committing to it, I noticed my shape, my posture, my shadow, my aura, if I notice I get low and little or look down or withdraw or collapse, If that's my body language, that's going to lean me in a, I don't think I like that. If you get really sweaty, if your palms start to sweat quite a bit or your heart rate picks up, I would say hold off on that. If you're not sleeping well and you're waking up thinking about it constantly, I would hold off. However, I'm going to give you a couple of signs that say maybe explore this thing. So if all you do is think about it, 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 and you don't know how you feel about it, I would say then we need to hack your strategy and we need someone else to ask you how you feel about it, because you asking yourself things inside your mind is not how your strategy works. So the answers that you're giving yourself inside your mind might not be authentic. They might be lies. Not that you're trying to lie to yourself, but the mind is very clever. If your authority is saying, this is going to take too much from me, I don't have what this takes. I don't have the resources for this. This requires more support than I can give, and I'm not going to get enough support in the process. I would say that you are strongly leaning towards this is a no, because your primary, main, your emotional channel of synthesis, the one that turns on your solar plexus and gives you an emotional authority, is a support based tribal channel, which has a lot to do with materialism, resources, and I will say safety, but it's more like the safety of like, can you provide for me and can we make a stable, secure household? There is a very strong tribal component here. So if someone with this, uh, so if someone with this authority channel says no to me, there's a good chance that they don't think I'm a good bargain. They don't think I'm a good value. They don't think that the resources are a good transaction. Yeah. Yeah. They don't want to date me. Honestly, that's really what that one's saying. It's saying, I don't want to get into any type of intimate connection with you, business or otherwise. Because your sacral response is with the channel of preservation, I expect you to have a lot of response to things that have a responsibility component where you will be a caregiver, a guardian, a leader, provider in some kind of way, but protective and focused on the survival based protection things, which would be strongly like, how are the people that you're in charge of, how are they learning, how are they eating, how are they being kept clean, how are they safe, and like I always look at this as the daycare channel, but I'm hesitant to actually put like an actual daycare and make people think of that, because I don't want them to be limited to that, but I do want there to be an understanding of, we have sacral, which is fertile, life-giving, regenerative, and it's connected to the spleen. Now, if this person only had the channel of preservation, we would call them a splenic generator. Now, would not mean that the spleen is the authority, but we would be calling them this because we'd be acknowledging that the one center that they're connected to has survival awareness. So a splenic generator always has a gift for survival awareness. I struggled with the question of like, is there any type of spiritual work you see? Because that would depend on my definition of spiritual and your definition of spiritual and Ra's definition of spiritual. And sometimes my brain is like, because it really just wants to try and suss out, what do you mean when you say spiritual? And how do I find an answer that you're looking for? How do I find this answer for you? I would say that because you have a totally open head, you are open to a lot of different types of inspiration, like a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. And you are personal view, but I would say that you would resonate still with possibility view, like anything can happen. Now, because you're a 1-3, I think you also have this a flip side version of anything could happen because the one is so insecure, right? It always thinks that there's an answer that it hasn't found yet. So it's always like, there's possibly another answer out there that's gonna, right? And then the three is just, we have these built-in narratives of like, we're just gonna break it or wreck it or trash it or snap it or whatever, right? So there's an infinite amount of ways of possibilities to break things and rebuild them. And honestly, how many like gods or deities or guides have you broken the bond with throughout your life? Like, what are the beliefs you've broken the bond with throughout your life? You got to hang in 56, it's unconscious. When I think about spiritual, I think about being connected. I think about being soul aware, like aware that we are more than just a meat suit. Like spirit is a bit of magic. Magic's a bit of things that are typically just too complex for us to understand. So we have to put faith into them. Spiritual things require hope, faith, belief, and typically like optimism, awe, wonder. If you want to be spiritual, you have to have those qualities. Where is your awe? Where is your wonder? Where is anything possible? Where like miracle is coming up. Where have you ever seen a miracle? You have a lot of sixth color: innocence, motivation, personal view, indirect light determination with touch cognition. You have a lot of six. I would say that one of your spiritual gifts is to emulate God's wishes. This is such a strange thing to say. I make space for God and source and human design. It all works together for me because to me, God is source. I don't do God from any specific, like, I have no title to my belief. There is no religion you can really attach me to. But I believe that there is a source. And I believe that the source is a designer or programmer or creator. And I think that we are designed. And I think that we have multiple parts. And two of those parts are like body and soul incarnated together. And people tend to forget that they're also the soul incarnated for this experience. And they seem to really rebel against the fact that they have free will. I think we have limited choice. I don't know about no choice, and I don't know about total free will, but I think that we have limitations like nurture versus nature. You are limited and you have no choice but to have the definition that you have. But where you're not defined, where you are open, you do have some autonomy left and you have some free will and you can follow your authority or not. And I think that my designer is watching me and seeing what kind of choices I make and seeing how I live my life and seeing how I express myself or my light out into the world. But expressing my light into the world is expressing my aura, and expressing my aura is myself. I think that Source made me to be what I am. I think Source made you to be what you are. And I think being spiritual is honoring that. I would say that you're probably just already on the right path. That just feels like a great place to leave it on. I hope that was good. On to the next.